I never thought I'd see my daughter's name on papers trying to declare me mentally unfit, but there it was, Patricia Winters versus Margaret Wilson, my own child asking the court to take control of my life. A young man in a suit handed me the papers on my front porch and told me it wasn't personal, that Patricia was worried about me. I stood frozen in the doorway of the house Robert and I had saved for and raised our family in, the same place where Patricia took her first steps and where we measured her height on the kitchen doorframe. I took the papers, closed the door, and spread them on the old oak table where she'd done her homework, and where I'd sat alone after Robert died 8 years ago. The legal words were meant to scare, but after years as a school administrator I could see what it meant. Patricia claimed I had dementia and couldn't handle money, and she wanted the court to make her my guardian so she could control my assets, including my house. That house is worth more than $850,000 now, and I remembered Derek, Patricia's husband, saying last month that I should sell it to invest in some new online currency scheme. When I'd said no, he'd given that slippery smile that suddenly made sense. The kettle shrieked, and I made my usual cup of Earl Grey, the way I always have, one bag, a splash of milk, no sugar, while the Japanese maple Robert and I planted on our 10th anniversary flashed red outside the window. Its roots as settled here as mine. I didn't notice the tears at first. They were quiet, steady tears, the kind that come when you realize someone you loved has betrayed you. The doorbell rang again, and I opened it to find my 16-year-old grandson, Lucas, awkward and upset, carrying a backpack. He told me he'd come because he needed to see me and because he'd found out about the lawsuit his dad had taken Patricia shopping to celebrate filing the papers. He said they planned to move into my house by Christmas. He told me, voice breaking, that they were lying about me leaving the stove on or forgetting money, and that his dad had been recording conversations about taking my house. Lucas said he found the recordings when he fixed his dad's laptop. Hearing that made a small hope spark inside me. My clever, truthful grandson had proof, and what his parents were doing would change everything. Are you ready for that? I asked him, and for a moment Lucas looked older than 16. He said his dad had already changed everything, turned his mother into someone he didn't recognize, and pushed this whole scheme about an investment until Patricia believed it was the only sensible thing. I took his hand and told him I would call an old friend. While Lucas bit a cookie, I dug out my worn leather address book, found Henry Sullivan's number under S, and dialed. Henry had been my neighbor for 30 years and was a retired lawyer with good ties in Portland. Hearing Lucas say he'd come because he needed to stand up to his parents made something harden inside me, not anger alone, but a steady, steel determination. Henry arrived within the hour, spry and neatly dressed in his usual bow tie. When he read the papers, his face went dark. He called the claims about my memory outrageous, and told me the court often takes such petitions very seriously, especially for elders, so we had to act fast. Lucas handed over the recordings he'd found on his dad's laptop, conversations about taking my house, and Henry said that could be crucial evidence, but asked Lucas if he was ready to testify against his parents if needed. It broke my heart to see my grandson put in that position, but he was brave and had already backed up the files to the cloud with encryption, so his dad wouldn't find them. Henry called Sophia Chen, an elder law specialist he trusted, and arranged an emergency meeting for the next morning. He also said a geriatric psychiatrist should evaluate me right away to document my mental fitness before the hearing. As we sat in my kitchen, among the copper pots and the framed handprint from Patricia's second grade, I felt something I hadn't felt since Robert died. Hope, mixed with a fierce refusal to be pushed out of my home. They thought I was an easy mark. They had badly underestimated Margaret Wilson. After Henry left, Lucas stayed for dinner, and I made his favorite meatloaf while we sat in the kitchen that Patricia now wanted. He showed me screenshots of texts from Derek saying, "Once we get control of the house, we can leverage it for the investment. Your mom won't need that much space in assisted living anyway," my folk clattered. I'd never talked about assisted living, and Lucas said they'd already looked up cheap places. The betrayal burned. I'd sacrificed so much for Patricia, and now they were planning to warehouse me while Derek spent the money. Lucas decided to stay overnight and lied to his parents about being at a friend's house. Later I heard him whispering on the phone in the guest room, determined and urgent. The next day we met Sophia Chen in her neat, no-nonsense office with a rainy view of downtown Portland. She called what Patricia and Derek were doing textbook predatory behavior and said courts often favor the petitioner in elder cases, so we had to move fast. Lucas handed Sophia a USB with the recordings he found, and she warned him that coming forward could permanently change his relationship with his parents. He said he didn't care. His dad was trying to steal from his grandmother, and his mom was helping. Sophia asked about Patricia's history with men and control. I told her Patricia used to be close to the family, but after her father died, she chased male approval, and Derek was the most controlling of all. He'd only visited when he needed money, and when I refused his crypto scheme last month, the competency claims suddenly appeared. Sophia said Lucas's recordings could be crucial, and that we had a strong case, and then she laid out another plan, not just to fight in court, but to possibly help Patricia wake up from Derek's influence. Our lawyer explained the plan. Not only would we ask the court to throw out their case, but we'd also push to have the judge see how Derek had been controlling Patricia. On top of that, we'd request financial protection for me and, maybe even for her. For the first time since those awful papers arrived, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe this wasn't just about saving my house. Maybe it was about saving my daughter too. As we wrapped up our meeting, my phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Are you taking your medications properly?" On the surface, it sounded caring, but I knew better. She wanted a record that made me look forgetful. My stomach turned with anger as I showed the message to Sophia. She gave a sharp smile. "Perfect. Keep those. They're building their own case against themselves." Leaving the office, Lucas walked protectively by my side. I noticed a young woman behind the reception desk, typing quickly on her computer. She had bright blue hair and a friendly smile. "That's my granddaughter, Zoe," Sophia said, noticing where I was looking. "She's a pre-law student and helps us with social media for elder rights." Zoe waved. "Grandma taught me everything about protecting seniors from financial abuse. It's everywhere in America right now." Hearing her, I felt a stab of sadness for what I'd lost with Patricia, but also a flicker of hope. Young people like Zoe still respected their elders, still saw our value beyond money and property. "The court date is 3 weeks away," Sophia reminded me as we left. "Document everything, Margaret, and stay strong. You're not just fighting for your house, you're fighting for every older parent being taken advantage of." So here I am, sharing my story from Portland, Oregon. I'm 73 years old. If any of this sounds familiar to you, tell me in the comments where you're from and your age. And if this series is helping you, hit that like button. Your support means the world right now. The next morning, right at 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. On my porch stood Dr. Elaine Morales, a geriatric psychiatrist Sophia had arranged. She carried a leather briefcase and wore a kind smile. "Mrs. Wilson, I'm here to do your cognitive assessment," she said as I invited her in. "It'll take about 3 hours of tests and questions." I'd set the dining table with coffee, neatly stacked bills, medical papers, and financial records all up to date. Dr. Morales raised an eyebrow. "You've come prepared." "I was a school administrator for 30 years, I told her. "Being organized is just who I am." She smiled. "That already tells me a lot." The tests were tough, but manageable. I had to remember lists of words and say them backwards, solve puzzles, answer questions about current events and history, and explain how I handle my daily life. I told her about my morning walks, volunteering at the library, my book club, and the digital photography class I was taking online. Then I showed her my balanced checkbook, investment statements, and expense spreadsheet. I even explained how I refinanced my mortgage 5 years ago and used Robert's life insurance to pay off the house. After 3 hours, she closed her notebook. "Mrs. Wilson, I've done thousands of these. Not only is your thinking completely normal for your AIGX outstanding, your scores are like many of my patients in their 50s. Relief washed over me. "So you'll testify to that?" I asked. "Of course," she said firmly. "In my report, I'll state that any suggestion you're impaired is baseless and possibly malicious." Then she asked gently, "Do you know why your daughter is making these claims?" "My son-in-law wants my house," I said quietly. "He's convinced Patricia I can't handle it anymore." Her expression hardened. "Sadly, I see this all the time. Grown children taking advantage of their parents for money." She handed me her card. "If you need anything before the hearing, call me directly." After she left, I sat at the kitchen table staring at her card. The validation felt good, but it hurt too. Imagine needing a doctor's proof to show your own daughter you're still capable. My phone rang. Patricia. I braced myself and answered. "Hi, Mom," she chirped, her voice a little too cheerful. "I'm coming by in an hour to take you to lunch. There's a new restaurant downtown I just know you'll love." This sudden invitation, after weeks of minimal contact, was suspicious. Patricia hadn't taken me to lunch since before filing the lawsuit. "That sounds lovely," I said, matching her false cheerfulness. "But I have plans with the doctor today." "Doctor, are you ill?" The concern in her voice might have seemed genuine to anyone who didn't. No, she was actively trying to have me declared incompetent. "Just a regular checkup. Nothing to worry about." The lie came easily. Necessary protection in this new reality where my daughter had become an adversary. "I'll reschedule then. Maybe tomorrow." "Tomorrow works," I agreed, buying time to consult with Sophia. After hanging up, I immediately called my attorney. Her advice was clear. Go to lunch, record everything, be pleasant but vague, don't mention the case or the cognitive assessment. The next day, Patricia arrived, driving a new Mercedes SUV I'd never seen before. When I commented on it, she waved dismissively. "Just Elise. Derek got a great deal through a business contact." As we drove to an upscale restaurant in the Pearl District, Patricia chatted about inconsequential things. The weather, a movie she'd seen, Lucas's school activities. Not once did she mention the lawsuit hanging over our heads, the fact that she was actively trying to take my home, or that she'd accused me of mental decline. The restaurant was trendy and expensive, with exposed brick walls and artisanal everything. As we studied the menus, Patricia casually asked, "Mom, have you been taking your blood pressure medication regularly?" "You sometimes forget." I had never been prescribed blood pressure medication. "I don't have high blood pressure, Patricia," I replied calmly, though my heart was racing. My last physical showed perfect readings, just like the 20 before it. She blinked rapidly. "Oh, I must be thinking of Aunt Helen then." My sister Helen had died 3 years ago from cancer. She'd never had hypertension either. Throughout lunch, Patricia peppered me with similar questions, each designed to elicit confused responses or memory lapses. "Remember when we got lost in Seattle last summer? We hadn't been to Seattle in over a decade. Have you paid your property taxes this year?" I know dates confuse you sometimes. I'd paid them in April on time, as always. Each trap was laid carefully, but I navigated around them, keeping my responses measured and accurate. All the while, my phone recorded every word in my purse as Sophia had instructed. When Patricia dropped me at home, she hugged me tightly, something she hadn't done in months. "I love you, Mom. We just want what's best for you." I returned the embrace, wondering if any part of my real daughter remained beneath Derek's influence. "I love you too, Patricia. I always have." As her car disappeared down the street, I stood on my porch, staring at the home she was trying to take from me. 3 more weeks until the hearing. 3 weeks to prepare for the fight of my life. The courthouse loomed ahead, its stone facade imposing against the gray Portland sky. Lucas walked beside me, his lanky frame hunched against the drizzling rain. Sophia Chen strutted confidently on my other side, carrying a sleek leather portfolio. "Remember," she advised quietly, "let me do most of the talking. Answer questions directly but briefly." I sat quietly, reminding myself not to let Patricia or Derek push my buttons, no matter how hard they tried. My hands tightened around my purse, so hard my knuckles turned white. Inside was the little leather notebook Robert had given me on our last anniversary, a reminder of his love and my strength, something I carried like a lucky charm. The courtroom itself surprised me. It was smaller than I thought it would be, with shiny wooden benches that smelled faintly of lemon polish. As we sat down, Patricia and Derek walked in with their lawyer, a flashy man in an expensive suit, who moved like he owned the place. Patricia avoided my eyes completely, but Derek locked his gaze on me, his face twisted with a mix of anger and smugness. The moment he noticed Lucas sitting by my side, though, his expression changed. His face darkened with rage, and he spat out, loud enough for us to hear, "What the hell is he doing here?" Patricia quickly tugged his sleeve, whispering something to calm him, while their lawyer leaned in, his hushed voice carrying the tone of someone scrambling to keep things under control. Then the judge entered, a serious-looking woman in her 60s, her dark hair streaked with silver, her sharp eyes scanning the room like she could see right through us. After the formalities, Patricia's lawyer stood and painted a picture of me as if I were some confused old woman who couldn't manage on her own. He said I forgot appointments, left appliances running, and made foolish choices with money, all while pretending Patricia only wanted to protect me in my golden years. But then Sophia rose to speak, and it was like watching someone switch gears. Her calm, polite manner hardened into something fierce. With steady conviction, she told the judge, "Your Honor, this case isn't about protecting an elderly parent. Sophia didn't waste a second. "This case isn't about protecting an aging parent," she said firmly. "It's about a greedy son-in-law using his wife to grab hold of valuable property." The courtroom went still as she let her words sink in. Then she calmly laid out the proof. First came Dr. Morales's report, showing my mind was sharp and healthy. Next, she showed the judge my carefully organized financial records. But the real shock came when Sophia revealed the recordings Lucas had made. "Your Honor, we have audio of the petitioners discussing their real plans for Mrs. Wilson's house," she said. Derek's lawyer jumped up, shouting objection, claiming the recordings were illegal. Sophia didn't even flinch. "Oregon is a one-party consent state," she said smoothly. "These recordings are legal." The judge allowed them, and then Derek's own voice filled the courtroom. "Once we get control of the old lady's house, we can cash out and finally fund the business." Patricia seemed to shrink into her chair as another clip played this time, Derek coaching her on what symptoms to fake for the court. When Lucas was called to testify, my heart nearly stopped. My grandson, only 16, walked bravely to the stand, standing tall even with his parents staring at him. Sophia asked gently, "Lucas, why did you record these conversations?" His voice wavered at first, but he didn't back down. "3 months ago, I heard my dad tell my mom that Grandma's house was their ticket out of debt," he explained. When I asked what he meant, he said Grandma was too old to live alone, and they were helping her move into assisted living. "But that's not true. I spend more time with her than they do. She helps me with my calculus homework. She's independent." Lucas looked right at his mom as she silently cried. Derek's lawyer tried hard to tear him down, saying Lucas was manipulated by me, or that he just wanted attention. But Lucas held his ground, calmly explaining how bad his parents' money problems had become and how desperate Derek was for investment cash. Then, it was my turn. To my surprise, I felt steady, almost calm. Years of running school board meetings and dealing with difficult parents had prepared me for this. The judge looked straight at me. "Mrs. Wilson, do you understand why we're here today?" she asked. "Yes, Your Honor," I replied. "My daughter and son-in-law want control of my house, which is worth about $850,000, because I refused to sell it to fund my son-in-law's business. They're trying to have me declared incompetent." Derek's lawyer tried to rattle me with a smug smile. "Isn't it true you've been forgetful lately? Misplacing items, forgetting conversations, no more than anyone else," I said evenly, "and I certainly haven't forgotten that. Derek asked me 3 separate times this year to sell my home." A few people in the courtroom chuckled, and the lawyer's smile tightened. He tried again. "Your daughter says she found the stove left on in March. Do you recall that?" I recall Patricia claiming she found it, and yes, curiously, the very next day after I refused to give Derek $30,000 for his scheme, I met the judge's eyes. "I've cooked on that stove for 45 years without incident." He switched tactics, suggesting I was too old to handle a big house. I smiled slightly. "If and when I decide to downsize, counselor, it will be my choice, and the money will go to my retirement, not cryptocurrency speculation." After more failed attempts, he gave up. When the judge called a recess, I noticed Patricia standing alone by a window, arms hugging herself. Despite Sophia's warning glance, I walked over. "Patricia," I said softly. She turned, her face tight with emotions. She was clearly fighting to hide. "Mom, she started, but Derek suddenly appeared, cutting her off. "Our attorney says no talking during recess," he snapped. Patricia went quiet, but I caught a flicker in her eyes, shame, maybe even doubt. Back inside, Sophia gave a closing argument that was nothing short of brilliant. She tore apart their lies piece by piece and reminded the court of Derek's true motives, supported by hard evidence. Then she surprised everyone. "Your Honor, we don't just ask for dismissal of this petition. We ask the court to consider whether Mrs. Winters herself is being controlled and financially coerced by her husband." Judge Kimball's face was calm but firm as she gave her ruling. "Based on the overwhelming evidence, I see no reason to declare Margaret Wilson incompetent. This petition is dismissed." She paused, fixing Derek with a sharp look. "Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney for possible elder exploitation charges. Mr. Winters, trying to use the courts to steal your mother-in-law's home is a very serious offense." Relief washed over me. My house was safe. But as I glanced at Patricia's stricken face, I felt the victory cut both ways. As we gathered our things, Lucas leaned close. "Grandma," he whispered, "can I stay with you for a while? I don't think I can go home with them right now." Before I could answer, Patricia walked over, her face pale and tight. "Lucas, please, you lied about Grandma." His voice cracked, but his words hit like steel. "No, Mom, you tried to take her house. How could you?" Derek suddenly appeared, grabbing Patricia's arm. "We're leaving now." Judge Kimball, overhearing, spun around. "Mr. Winters, watch your tone. You are still in my courtroom." Derek's face twisted with anger, but he dropped Patricia's arm and stormed toward the door. I touched Patricia's hand gently. "Lucas can stay with me for now, just until things calm down." She nodded, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. As she turned to leave, Sophia stepped forward, holding out a card. "Mrs. Winters," she said softly, "when you're ready to talk, call this number. Help is available." Patricia stared at it for a long moment before slipping it into her pocket. Outside, the rain had lifted, and a weak sun peeked through the clouds. Lucas walked beside me toward Henry's car, where our friend waited. "We did it, Grandma," he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "We won." I squeezed his hand. "We protected what mattered, Lucas. But remember, your mother is still your mother." That evening, as Lucas unpacked into the guest room that was slowly becoming his own, I sat in the living room, surrounded by years of memories. My house was safe, but I couldn't shake the ache of what it might have cost me my daughter. Then my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Mom, it's me. New phone. Derek doesn't know about it. Can we meet tomorrow?" Alone, hope fluttered in my chest, fragile but alive. The next morning, I suggested a quiet cafe 10 blocks away, far enough that Derek wouldn't see her car, close enough for me to walk and clear my head. The place was calm at 10 a.m., with a few people on laptops and an elderly couple sharing a newspaper. I chose a corner table with a view of the door. To my surprise, Patricia arrived 5 minutes early. She looked smaller than usual, wearing a plain sweater instead of her usual designer clothes, her hair pulled back simply. The polished image Derek liked to parade was gone. "Mom," she said softly as she slid into the seat across from me. "Thank you for meeting me." I studied her face, the tired eyes, the tension in her jaw. "How are you, Patricia?" I asked gently. She tried to smile, but it quickly crumbled. "I don't even know how to answer that." The server came by. I ordered chamomile tea. Patricia asked for black coffee. When we were alone again, she placed her phone face down on the table. "I'm recording this," she whispered. "Not for Derek, for me. I need to remember everything clearly." I nodded, saying nothing. Her voice broke as she began. "First, I need to say I'm sorry. What I did was unforgivable. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I see it now." "What do you see, Patricia?" I asked gently, keeping my voice free of blame. She took a shaky breath. "Derek convinced me you were slipping. He'd point out little things like you misplacing your glasses, or forgetting a neighbor's name. He'd twist them into warning signs. He'd whisper, 'Your mom seems more confused today,' until I started to believe him." Patricia's voice shook as she admitted how Derek had slowly twisted her thinking. "He'd point out little things like you misplacing your glasses or forgetting someone's name. Man keeps saying, 'Did you notice?' Until I started seeing problems that weren't really there. When I gently asked about the house, she lowered her eyes. At first, he framed it like concern how the upkeep was too much for you, how you'd be happier somewhere smaller. But then his businesses collapsed, and the debts piled up. The house became the solution to everything in his mind. Our drinks arrived, and I wrapped my hands around my warm mug, letting her words sink in. "Where is Derek now?" I asked. "At a meeting with investors," she said, her hands trembling slightly. "He doesn't know I'm here. After the hearing, he lost it, smashed a lamp, punched a hole in the wall. He blamed me for not being convincing enough, and Lucas for betraying him." My stomach tightened. "Patricia, has he ever hurt you or Lucas physically?" "Not directly," she answered quickly. "But he throws things, breaks things. It's controlled rage, meant to scare us, and afterward, he's so apologetic, so loving. Classic cycle, right?" She gave a bitter laugh. The cruel irony wasn't lost on either of us before Derek. Patricia had been a social worker, helping women escape situations just like hers. Her voice softened. "Lucas isn't safe at home right now. Thank you for taking him in." My chest ached. "He's my grandson. You're my daughter. You'll always have a place with me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I met with Sophia yesterday. She's helping me understand my options." Hope flickered inside me. "And what are you thinking?" I asked. Patricia twisted her wedding ring anxiously. "I'm scared. Derek controls our money. My name's on his loans. He's cut me off from friends, but I opened a separate account. I'm gathering documents. Sophia's helping me make a safety plan. I reached for her hand. Whatever you need, I'm here. She squeezed back, whispering, that's what makes what I did so awful. You've always stood by me, and I tried to take your home. My heart twisted. You were manipulated, Patricia. It hurt deeply. Yes, but I understand how someone like Derek works. I've seen strong people fall into the same trap. We talked for 2 hours. She admitted their finances were worse than I ever knew and described Derek's control in chilling detail. She had been thinking about leaving for months, but the courthouse had forced her to face reality. As we parted, Patricia hugged me tightly. I'll keep in touch through this phone, she said, holding up a prepaid one Derek didn't know about. Be careful, I told her softly. And remember, my door is always open. Watching her walk away, I felt torn, relieved she was taking steps, afraid of what lay ahead, but quietly hopeful for healing. At home, Lucas was in the kitchen making sandwiches. I saw Mom's text. He said, "How did it go?" I sank onto the stool, feeling every one of my 73 years. She's making small steps, Lucas, but in the right direction. He nodded. Do you think she'll leave him? I think so, I said, but it has to be done carefully. His eyes softened. Can I see her? She'd like that, I promised. We'll make it safe. For a moment, eating lunch together, I felt we were beginning a new chapter, one that would demand patience, courage, and trust. 2 weeks later, the phone rang. Sophia's voice was unusually tense. Margaret, are you sitting down? I quickly lowered myself into my armchair. I am now. What's happened? She hesitated. Derek found Patricia's prepaid phone and the documents she'd been gathering. There was a confrontation. She's safe, but she left the house with only her purse. She's here in my office, and she's asking if she can stay with you. My heart pounded. Of course she can't send her right away. Sophia's tone darkened. There's more. Derek made threats, said he'd ruin both of you. He mentioned your house again, and something about cashing in his insurance policy. We've already filed for an emergency restraining order, but I'm concerned about his state of mind. As Sophia arranged for her assistant to drive Patricia to me, I called Henry to explain everything, my hands trembling. This was no longer just about protecting my home, it was about protecting all of us. When I told Lucas's mom was coming, his face showed both relief and worry. For good? He asked. For now, I answered. This will be hard for everyone. Your mother is leaving everything behind. He nodded seriously. I'll get the guest room ready. An hour later, Patricia arrived with only a small bag. Her face was pale, her eyes red. When Lucas opened the door, she froze for a moment, then hugged him tightly. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Over tea, she explained what had happened. Since the court hearing, Derek had been watching her constantly, checking her phone, tracking her movements. When he found the prepaid phone and the documents she had hidden, he exploded. He said I'd betrayed him, that after everything he'd done, this was how I repaid him. Then he warned that if I tried to take his son, I'd regret it. That's when I grabbed my purse and ran. Did he follow you? I asked. She shook her head. I went straight to Sophia's office. Lucas wanted to call the police immediately. Patricia told him the restraining order was being filed and should be ready by morning. I wasn't as confident. Men like Derek often grew more dangerous when cornered. I silently resolved to ask Henry about extra security. That night, the three of us shared dinner together for the first time in years. My home, the very house Derek had tried to take, was now a refuge for his wife and son. Patricia helped me in the kitchen, clumsy with a knife but determined. I've forgotten how to do the simplest things, she admitted. You haven't forgotten, I told her gently. You just need practice. Later, after Lucas went to bed, Patricia sat with me in the living room. I keep thinking about what would have happened if we'd won that case, she said. Derek already talked to a realtor. He planned to sell your house and put you in Pinewood Acres. The thought chilled me. Pinewood was a miserable assisted living facility with sky-high costs. You would have lost your home, she whispered, and I would have stayed trapped, believing his lies. Lucas was the only one brave enough to fight back. You're brave too, I told her. You're standing up now. The next morning, I found Patricia in the kitchen making burnt toast and strong tea. I thought I'd try breakfast, she said with a shy smile. It's perfect, I told her, touched by the effort. As we ate, my phone rang. Henry's voice was urgent. Margaret, I just passed your street. Derek's car is parked a block away. He ducked when I looked, but it was him. A chill went through me. I told Patricia, and she went pale. He's not supposed to be near us, she whispered. The order hasn't been served yet, I reminded her. It was still early morning. We called the police, closed the blinds, and locked the doors. Lucas, now awake, kept peeking out the window. He's still there, he muttered. By the time 2 officers arrived, Derek was gone. They promised to patrol but couldn't do much without the restraining order in effect. After they left, Patricia's phone buzzed. She picked it up, then dropped it as if it had burned her hand. What is it? I asked. She turned the screen toward me, her hand shaking. The text from Derek was chilling. You can hide in Mommy's house for now, but remember, always collect what I'm owed. Always. 3 days passed without incident. The restraining order was finally served, keeping Derek 500 feet away from Patricia, Lucas, and my home. Sophia also helped Patricia access an emergency fund for survivors of domestic violence, giving her a little independence. Life began to settle into a fragile routine. I drove Lucas to school each day rather than letting him take the bus, just in case. Patricia started therapy with a counselor who specialized in emotional abuse. The sessions left her drained, but I could see change slowly taking root. She cooked without nervously checking her phone, and sometimes even laughed with Lucas without immediately glancing around in fear. One Thursday, as Patricia and I looked through her old childhood photos, the phone rang. Mrs. Wilson, a young woman's voice said, "This is Zoe Chen, Sophia's granddaughter. I work at the law office." "Yes, Zoe, is everything all right?" "Not exactly," she whispered. "I overheard something troubling. A man came in asking another lawyer about property. Lien's how quickly one could be filed without the homeowner knowing. I recognized him from court. It was Derek." My stomach clenched. After thanking her, I phoned Henry. He agreed Derek was likely trying to file a fraudulent lien on my home. "Don't worry," Henry said. "I'll contact the county office and flag your property so nothing slips through." That evening, over dinner, I explained the situation. Patricia pushed her food around, guilt clouding her face. "This is all my fault," she whispered. "No," I said firmly. "Abuse is always the abuser's responsibility." Lucas, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "There's something you should know." He pulled out his phone. "Dad's been emailing me. He says he's going for full custody once the divorce starts. He's threatening to use the recordings against you. Mom claiming you helped him exploit Grandma." Patricia gasped. "He can't. Not after everything." The cruelty of it burned inside me. Derek planned to twist evidence meant to protect me into a weapon against my daughter. "He won't win," I said. "Those recordings show he was in control. You were under pressure." Patricia reached for Lucas's hand, eyes shining with tears. "I'm so sorry you're in this." "I'm not in the middle," Lucas said firmly. "I'm with you and Grandma. I know what Dad is." That night, unable to sleep, I spread property documents across the kitchen table, following Henry's advice to keep everything ready. The ticking wall clock filled the silence till I heard a faint sound from the backyard, a metallic click, like the gate latch. Then footsteps. I turned off the kitchen light and peeked through the blinds. A tall figure moved along the path toward the back door. My heart pounded as I reached for the phone just as a key turned in the lock. The door opened. Derek stepped into my kitchen. "Margaret," he said calmly, "we need to talk." "How did you get a key?" I demanded, keeping my eyes on the drawer with the pepper spray. "Patricia's key. I copied it months ago. Always good to have a backup plan." His smile was cold. "You're violating the restraining order. I'm calling the police." I grabbed the phone. "Before you do," he said evenly, "you might want to consider your options." He pulled a thick envelope from his jacket and tossed it onto the table. "What is this?" I asked. "Insurance," he replied. I opened it and froze. Inside were dozens of photographs of Patricia, taken without her knowledge. Shots of her entering her therapist's office, talking with Sophia. Inside the envelope were photos of Patricia at the cafe with me, along with copies of bank statements, emails, and even what looked like her medical records. Derek smirked as he explained, "I've been keeping track of Patricia's unstable behavior for months. I'm building a case to show she's dangerous and unfit. If she goes through with divorce or custody, this all goes public. Her boss, her friends, the court." Anger burned inside me. "This is blackmail." He leaned back casually. "No, this is negotiation. All I want is what I'm owed. Patricia promised to support my business. Your house is the capital I need. So it was never about me being incompetent," I said. "It's about family business," he corrected. "And you're standing in the way." "Get out of my house," I told him, my voice cold. But Derek didn't budge. Instead, he leaned forward. "Here's how it works. You'll convince Patricia and Lucas to come home. Then you'll sell this house and give me the money for my business. In return, I'll keep quiet. No ruined career. No custody battle. Fear and fury fought inside me, but I knew I had to stay calm and think smart. And if I refused? I asked. Derek's smile faded. Then Patricia loses everything: her son, her job, her reputation. I've got statements from friends saying she has a drinking problem. She doesn't have a drinking problem, I snapped. The court won't know that, he said, tapping the envelope. This paperwork is very convincing. As he talked, I noticed movement behind him. Lucas was in the hallway, wide-eyed, holding up his phone, recording everything. Our eyes met for a second before he slipped back into the shadows. I forced myself to keep Derek talking. And how exactly would this arrangement work? I asked, pretending to consider it. Derek's chest puffed up, convinced he was winning. He went into detail, not realizing every word was being captured as evidence of extortion and violation of the restraining order. From the corner of my eye, I saw Lucas heading upstairs, no doubt to wake Patricia and call the police. I just had to keep Derek distracted. You've really thought of everything, I said evenly. I always do, Derek grinned. That's why I always win. Not this time, I thought. Just then, the sound of sirens began to echo in the distance. Derek froze, his head whipping toward the window. What did you do? He barked, panic breaking through his smug mask. I didn't do anything, I said calmly. But it looks like my grandson did. Rage twisted his face. He lunged for the envelope, but I was faster, clutching it tight as I backed into the hallway. You think this changes anything? Derek snarled. I have copies of everything. Actually, we can stop you. Patricia's voice cut in. She stood at the top of the stairs in her nightgown, phone in hand, Lucas beside her. The police are 2 minutes away, Derek, and they already have the video of you breaking in and blackmailing my mother. For a moment, Derek sagged, but then he tried for the back door. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I told him firmly. As he yanked the door open, 2 police officers were waiting. Their flashlights lit up his stunned face. Derek Winters, one officer said. You're under arrest for violating a restraining order, breaking and entering, and attempted extortion. The rest unfolded like a dream. Derek handcuffed, the officers reading him his rights. Our statements taken, the envelope bagged as evidence of his stalking and threats. By dawn, the 3 of us sat in my kitchen, sipping tea, drained but relieved. Patricia shook her head. He thought he was so clever. But all those photos and fake testimonials just prove his harassment. Narcissists often keep records, I said quietly. They think it makes them untouchable. But really, it maps out their crimes. Lucas finally spoke. Do you think he'll go to jail? Patricia squeezed his hand. I don't know, honey, but he won't be coming home, and he'll never make decisions for us again. Our family, I whispered, holding on to the weight and hope of those 2 words. In the weeks that followed, life slowly began to shift. With Derek denied bail because of his threats, we could breathe again. Patricia, with Sophia's help, filed for divorce, this time with overwhelming proof of abuse and coercion. The process moved quickly, almost mercifully straightforward. Lucas blossomed once Derek was gone. Free from constant tension, he seemed taller, his grades rose, and he rejoined the robotics team Derek had once mocked. Patricia's journey was harder. Years of manipulation had left scars. Some mornings, doubt gripped her, Derek's voice echoing in her head. But there were breakthroughs too, like when she returned to her old job at the Women's Resource Center. Her personal experiences now gave her work deeper meaning. 6 months after that night, we celebrated in the backyard. The Japanese maple burned red in the October sun, just as it had the day those court papers arrived. Patricia lifted her glass. The divorce is final, she said, smiling. And I've been approved for a small business loan. I'm starting a consulting practice to help women leaving abusive relationships manage their finances. We cheered her courage. Later, as we cleaned up in the kitchen, Patricia hesitated. I've been looking at apartments, she said. My heart sank, though I knew this day would come. Lucas wants to stay here through senior year, she added. He loves the stability. He's always welcome, I assured her. This is his home too. She nodded, then spoke softly. What if I didn't move out completely? What if I kept my room here, stayed some nights, had my own place, but stayed connected to this? She gestured at the kitchen, at us. A foot in both worlds, I said. Exactly, she whispered, tears in her eyes. That's what freedom means, I told her, holding her close. That evening, I sat on the porch swing as the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and pink. The house stood strong behind me, not just walls, but the heart of a family nearly destroyed, now rebuilt. Derek had seen this place only as money to seize. In chasing it, he lost everything that mattered: his family, his freedom, his future. By defending it, I gained far more than a house. I gained my daughter, a bond with my grandson, and the reminder that integrity, courage, and family cannot be stolen. The Japanese maple swayed gently, its roots deep and secure, its branches stretching upward, like us, weathered, scarred, but healing. Home. A year later, we gathered again beneath the maple, now lit with twinkling lights. Friends and family filled neat rows of chairs. Lucas, handsome in his suit, fussed with his tie. "She's late," he muttered. "Your mother is always late," I teased. "Some things never change." Right then, a car pulled up. Patricia stepped out in a simple blue dress, portfolio in hand. Sophia followed, elegant as ever, with Zoe beside her now, helping Patricia's thriving business while finishing law school. "Sorry we're late," Patricia called. Last-minute client needed reassurance. The crowd settled as Patricia stepped to the front. Today marked the official launch of the Wilson Family Foundation, our joint effort to provide financial education and housing support for survivors of economic abuse. 1 year ago, Patricia began, her voice steady. "I was trapped in a marriage where money was used as a weapon. My husband tried to take my mother's home through manipulation. He nearly destroyed us in his pursuit of profit." She paused, meeting the eyes of several women in the audience, clients who had walked their own hard roads. "Today, we turn that pain into purpose. This foundation will help women secure safe housing, understand their rights, and rebuild independence." As she spoke, I felt a deep sense of rightness. The house Derek once tried so desperately to take had become the headquarters of an organization dedicated to helping others protect their own homes. Lucas, now a freshman at Portland State, had built our website and database. Patricia ran the daily operations with renewed passion, and I served as board chair, drawing on decades of experience to guide us forward. After the ceremony, Henry approached with a folded newspaper. "Thought you might want to see this," he said, pointing to a short article. Derek's sentencing: 18 months in prison for breaking and entering, violating the restraining order, and attempted extortion, followed by 5 years probation. Justice served, yet somehow small, compared to the larger story we were now writing. That evening, as the sky turned orange and pink, I sat on the porch swing. Patricia joined me, handing me a glass of iced tea. "Penny, for your thoughts," she said. "I was thinking about houses," I told her. "How they're more than wood and stone. They hold our stories." She nodded, watching Lucas in the yard as he animatedly explained something to Zoe. "When I was married to Derek, even in our fancy condo, I never felt at home." But here she gestured to the weathered porch, the swing Robert had hung years ago. "The simple comfort of this place here. I always know who I am." We swayed gently together, mother and daughter, watching the next generation begin to build. Behind us, the house stood steady, not just a shelter, but a testament to resilience, to fighting for what matters, to love chosen day after day. In the end, what Derek never understood was the simplest truth. A house is made of materials, but a home is made of memories, courage, and family. And that is something no court could ever take. That's today's story. If it touched you, leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget, share your own life lesson in the comments below.